What is with all of these pop stars and their meltdowns? We're going to talk about that in this video today. I'm Dyer from Jay's Analysis. You can check out my work at jaysanalysis.com, as you see right here. Also, subscribe to the site and check out my book. Now, let's get into the problems that these pop stars seem to have on a regular basis. Perry's supposed meltdown comes days after she posted a section of her 4-day-long Big Brother live stream of her entire life for that period, day and night, on YouTube, which is, again, a marketing ploy, but it's not just a dramatic marketing ploy. We're going to discuss the possibilities of what might be going on here and why this is even worth considering, including the absurdity of caring about her haircut. Now, I'm going to argue that there actually is some significance to this, because you'll notice, and the video doesn't play here, but on her Instagram when she posted this, notice her shorn look that she's taken here in this boyish tomboy imagery, as well as the blonde dye. And I was watching a recent goofy 80s movie that some of you might remember called The Legend of Billie Jean. Now, it's probably been overlooked because it was so silly and lacking in any sort of sophistication to most audiences. However, there's actually a lot more going on in The Legend of Billie Jean than you might think. And what's so bizarre about this movie is not just the parallels with Katy Perry and Helen Slater in the film, but the message of that film and actually what all is revealed in it in all of its layers of silly. Film Helen Slater, as well as her real-life brother Christian Slater, the Jack Nicholson clone, they play a couple of trailer trash-dwelling low people, and in the course of the narrative, what happens is their scooter is stolen. So, to get revenge for a stolen scooter, this actually kicks off a nationwide revolution based around feminism, believe it or not. Now, it's not just that. What's actually you're going to see what's shown in the film is also the ability to create iconic images of revolutionaries and craft these narratives using fake staged PR events. And so when it comes to the character of Katy Perry, I think we're looking at the possibility of a lot of PR events. Now, she could be having a legitimate meltdown, and certainly that seems to be the case with these pop stars who sometimes do appear to have multiple personalities and do appear to be on drugs, but it's always hard to know exactly when it's PR and when it's a genuine case of dissociative identity disorder or something like that, or actual mind control. Dave McGowan, in his book Lost Scenes Inside the Canyon, of course, does pose the thesis that a lot of the, quote, rehab centers, since they have been in the past run by actual MK Ultra doctors, that's probably pretty likely that if there's a reprogramming that needs to be done, it might happen at a lot of these, quote, rehab centers. That's why we see characters like Amanda Bynes, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Kesha, Lady Gaga. They have an eventual meltdown stage at around age 30 or something like that, which again is a very possible analysis. The Texas trailer parks or the Tennessee trailer parks, scooters are very vital to your life's existence. And so the thievery of a scooter sparks off, in this case, an uprising of the lower peoples. Now notice that the Helen Slater character is very feminine. She wears a dress, she has a purse, and she has long blonde hair, and she is the rage of the local Texas town. Now, this, of course, as you can imagine, will lead to the attempted rape by the older patriarchal, quote, male figure. And so the sleazeball gift shop guy selling his knickknacks tries, of course, to rape her over the money that she's contesting in terms of the stolen scooter. This kicks off the nationwide revolution, and then what happens is what's the most interesting part of the film. As they flee the town, being chased by the local authorities, local news starts picking up the story of a supposed murder by the Billie Jean character. Now, the funny part about this is that they are looking for some place to squat as they're on the run, and they find this rich guy's house, and it's this young rich guy who is into filming horror stuff. So he's like a budding filmmaker. His dad's really wealthy and buys him all this equipment, and he gets the idea that they can actually craft an image for Billie Jean. And so Billie Jean ends up at his house watching the old Ingmar Bergman version of Joan of Arc. And because Joan of Arc has the buzzed tomboy dyke haircut, she gets the idea to cut her all of her hair off. And so this is a sign of her rebellion, which again, she becomes a national symbol for what? Social justice. She is the original 80s social justice warrior in terms of what we think of today as social justice. I mean, I know that it goes back to the 60s and maybe even prior to that with cultural Marxism, but the modern incarnation with all the chicks that start to look like this, it's directly out of this movie. And what's so funny about this stupid ass movie is that it actually shows you that it's concocted. Film Billie Jean keeps going on TV by sending these terror tapes, just like ISIS or something, to the local news stations, and she thinks that the masses think that she is now a revolutionary hero because she says this catchphrase, "Fair is fair." And so this becomes a nationwide phenomenon. There's a whole underground movement, and all the chicks in the 80s start cutting their hair off to look like Billie Jean. Before and after. So at the end of the film, freed by the evil patriarchy and exposing them for their capitalist deeds, Billie Jean more or less burns down the guy who tried to rape her, his knick-knack store that was actually trying to cash in on her revolutionary image. But notice the before and the after here. How is this not perfectly an example of what's happened to females today? I mean, this is like the typical millennial here, and this is, again, more of the norm. I grew up in the 80s. This is the kind of gal that you would see in the 80s. Just like Billie Jean in the show, the movie, she more or less has an eventual meltdown, and she kind of has this meltdown on screen, not necessarily crying, but kind of sparking her pseudo social justice warrior revolution. Now, notice here, what did Katy Perry recently say? That she was making fun of the Britney Spears mental breakdown, and that she was going to save her breakdown for the perfect time. Exactly. So this is staged. Now, why do I would think it's staged. It's possible it was real. I'm not saying it's not, but that's why this is relevant, is because these are PR creations, I think. Now, for a long time, Katy Perry has been associating herself with a lot of 80s stuff. So you look back to her previous album, and it's kind of has the Patrick Noggle feel to it. It was that if your mom ever made you wait in the salon when you were a kid in the 80s, you saw Patrick Noggle artwork everywhere, which I actually kind of like. I think it's neat. But she adopted this whole image. And now I think that if we want to try to understand this look, it's basically Billie Jean. Whether she's conscious of it or not, I don't know. But to me, that suggests a PR stunt, and that she is a concocted media creation, just like the figure of Billie Jean in the film, who wanted to look like Scarlett Johansson. But if you look at Scarlett Johansson's cut, it is literally the Billie Jean cut. You're wondering why chicks and broads these days basically look like they stepped out of a post-apocalyptic film from Mystery Science Theater. It's because of Supergirl herself, the Legend of Billie Jean. Now, isn't it funny that Helen Slater went from being Billie Jean to Supergirl, right? Another feminist icon. And who pioneers feminism? America. Supergirl is so American, isn't she? Now, let's look at one last thing here. And you can see what happens when she collapses. So was that hammed up? She has a history of being involved in stagecraft acting, and she's actually part of the Yale Secret Society for sketch comedy, believe it or not, that you can actually find the articles on that if you look it up. But I guess that's up for debate. Regardless, the mind control, really, it's not so much a question of is it the pop stars that are mind control, it's the entire public under mind control. That's the real point. I recommend 2 books, my own, Esoteric Hollywood, Sex, Cults, and Symbols in Film, which you can get at Jay's Analysis, signed copies, which has had almost 90 5-star reviews in the last 5 months. You can get that at jaysanalysis.com. I also recommend Dave McGowan's book, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, The Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. Thanks for watching.